just got an email saying Zoom was granted access to my linked Google account. So that's
Okay. Yeah. I can control everything now.
Does my microphone work? Can anybody hear me? Okay, thanks.
So I wonder if you made a new YouTube link somehow.
Me?
No.
Oh.
It's streaming, but yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Huh. I didn't even know I was muted until they told me. I don't even know how to see myself either.
Scott and I always have the same backdrops. Like the dark wall or painting. I've got birds, he has a landscape.
At work, our communications team has gone to developing like a step and repeat of our logo that you can clip onto the back of your chair.
Hey, Scott.
Hey, Fred. All right, we're at 7 o'clock. So Tanya, from a tech end, are we good to begin?
As far as I know, yes.
So it did make a new
All right, well.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
What was that, John?
It may somehow when you started the stream, it created a new YouTube link that is not the one that I'd originally set up. So I just made a comment on the old video that there's a new link, and I'm going to post it on the Facebook now while we're getting started.
It didn't ask me for any specific information. It just said stream live.
Okay, you weren't able to join a pre-existing thing, and
No,
that would be the problem then.
that would.
So maybe we should wait a minute
right,
or two while people on the old link transition over. Is that, can someone check the old
Or
link?
we'll give it.
If there's people there.
Yeah, let's just give it a moment then. that had to happen. And I'm also seeing the participant count move a little bit in Zoom, so give everybody just another minute to gather.
And do the attendees have video, or is it just the panelists?
The attendees that are logged in should be able to see video.
But they can't post video, right? Or they can't stream it. They can't upload video, correct? Or
That's an outside of my knowledge question. All right, well, it's 7:03 and it looks like our attendee count has evened out. So let's go ahead and begin. My name is Scott Gibson and I have the pleasure of serving as the president of the Admiral Heights Improvement Association. And our colleagues and neighbors on the board are here with me. You can see John Leupold, who serves as our treasurer, and Bo Conroy, who serves as our vice president. Joe Flasher is also going to be speaking with us this evening, as is Alderman Fred Paone. Also joining us, but not on video, our treasurer, Cindy Radulovich, and board members, Tanya McGinnis, Maggie Rogers, Martha Thorne, Grant Garcia, Derek Lofty, Elizabeth Coelho, and Jen Hall. Definitely a different meeting, but different seems to be the theme for 2020. So instead of gathering at the stadium or the elementary school, we're going to meet online here. But we do have an agenda that we need to get through, a couple of administrative items, the approval of the minutes and the treasurer's report. We're going to give you some very exciting community property updates. And we're going to talk about a new initiative, a community input survey. We want to make sure that we're responsive to the neighborhood's interests, concerns, and needs. And so Joe Flasher came up with a great way for us to do that. But the most important piece of business we have tonight as an association is the adoption of our budget. As you may recall, we switched from an April 1st fiscal year to a calendar fiscal year to try to help people keep straight whether or not they're current on dues. And we do appreciate that we've had more members of our neighborhood pay their dues this year than ever before. And then, as always, we'll conclude with updates from City Hall. We're very lucky that our neighbor and City Councilman Alderman Paone has joined us and will speak to us on a couple of topics. One kind of housekeeping issue tonight before we move on too far, because of the way we're meeting, we did stress maintaining status quo. So you'll see the votes that we're taking tonight are really non-controversial issues, including the adoption of the dues rates in the budget, which we've purposely kept flat. Rather than use our traditional voting method where we hand out cards and we take a vote, what we're going to do is seek unanimous consent. So if you object to the adoption of the dues or the budget, what I'm going to ask you to do is object to that unanimous consent by inserting a comment in the chat function, just saying, I object in your name and address, so we can verify that you're an eligible voter in the Admiral Heights Improvement Association. But otherwise, we will be moving forward. So I just want to kick off the meeting by highlighting a couple of our accomplishments and challenges, as well as our view for the roads ahead, and touch on the special community benefits discussion, which we started, but then quickly paused. So 2020 has been a year of highs and lows. Membership is at an all-time high, and we're very excited for that. I'm hoping that is something we can sustain. We listened to you all at the last meeting when it came to suggestions for how we can keep that membership high. We've implemented some changes that were suggested from the membership last meeting, including taking time in the newsletter to recognize all the members who had paid so far. So thank you to everyone on the call and to all of our neighbors who have contributed to the Admiral Heights Improvement Association. We've also made historic investments in our properties and enhanced our community amenities. You see on this slide a photo of the new dock at Williams Drive, truly a team effort, really big undertaking. We're not done there yet. There are a couple of issues with the city that we need to resolve, and we'll talk about that during the property updates. But what a step forward. This has been a multi-year project, and I can't be more proud or happy that we were able to accomplish this in 2020. Special thanks to Bo Conroy and Jim Golden. 2020 was also a year of challenges. We're still working with the city on the standpipe issue for the Williams Drive dock. And COVID has forced the cancellation of traditional Admiral Heights events. We have heard from neighbors that they would like to see more family events, more social events. Unfortunately, as we were hearing that advice and thinking about how we'd implement it, the world changed and social events became harder to do. But we will end tonight by giving you a save the date for our first family event with social distancing in place in this new COVID world. As I've already mentioned, our road ahead for 2021 and our decisions for tonight are really aimed on maintaining the status quo. And so we'll be proposing flat dues and a flat budget. And I know of tremendous interest to a lot of people has been the special community benefits discussion. We have gathered more information from the county, and we are proceed to have a more detailed conversation with the neighborhood about that. But one of the things that I've stressed from the beginning is it's important to us that we have an open and transparent dialogue and that we're collaborative as we decide how we move forward on this issue. It's a big issue. And so the board felt it wasn't the right time. This should really wait until we can get back to our more traditional town hall meeting where we can recognize speakers and have a better facilitated dialogue. Unfortunately, these webinar platforms just don't support that as well. So we're still interested in this. We still have information that we need to discuss as a neighborhood, but we're going to wait until the time is right to have that discussion. Hopefully, we'll be able to have a vibrant discussion at our spring meeting. With that, I'm going to hand it over to John Loopold, our treasurer, who's going to give the treasurer's report.
Thank you, Scott. So a couple of key points which you can see on the slide there. Our income and membership are both up this year. We have approximately 260 members who have paid their dues in 2020, which is one of the highest numbers we've ever had. But keep in mind that because of the way the year worked, we included some people from the beginning of the year who paid their dues and after the fiscal year restarted. So that's still less than half of our neighborhood, right? We have about 600 homes. So our membership levels are still what I would consider, I think most of us would consider fairly low since we only have half of our neighbors participating in the Improvement Association. So we still need to find ways to grow our membership. And as Scott mentioned, the special benefits thing is one of the options on the table as we move forward. This year, our expenses were a little bit lower. Again, as Scott mentioned, all of our social or most of our social events have been canceled because of COVID. So that cost has been down, but some of our property expenses have gone up. We got the new dock, we built new kayak racks, which should actually be revenue neutral. And we also have a couple of big expenses coming up with some tree issues. So there will be more property expenses this year than we normally have. But again, that's kind of offset by the lower social events cost. This was also a short financial year. We approved the budget in March, so it only ran from April to December. So the next budget we're going to have to approve will need to run January to December. So both our budget and our membership are all corresponding in the same calendar there. Can I share my screen on this? I think I can. Oh, no, I can't.
You can. If you go to the control panel, you should be able to share screen. I'll stop share because I think I need to let you share. And I do want to just highlight quickly, somebody had asked in the chat, can you ask questions? I'm sorry, I glossed over that. I talked about voting, but not how you can ask questions. There is a chat function on that toolbar. If you go ahead and just type in your question on the chat function, one of us panelists will make sure it's asked and answered on the webinar for everybody to hear. So you just look at that toolbar panel, go to the chat function and type in your question, and we'll be reviewing that chat to make sure we grab those questions.
Okay, so right now everybody should be seeing the treasurer's report for this month, our current state. As of today, was last updated. You can see the balances we have in our account. Our CD has a little over $5,000. Our dock account is down to about $500 because we did rebuild the dock. So that account has been pretty well emptied at this point. And our checking account right now has about $17,000 in it. Okay. If you look at our income and expenses, we can start with the income. So far, we haven't gotten any advertising this year. That should be coming in soon because we just ran the mast. So there should be more income there. You can see what our dues look like. Again, keep in mind that's only from April to December. So we have about $9,000 or so that came in before April as part of the dues for 2020. Our kayak racks will be going up since we've now added new racks. We'll be getting more income there. We did get a few donations, and what you're going to see here, the dock construction, that $13,000. This is just a mere accounting number. It's not really income. It's money we moved out of the dock checking account into our business checking account, so we could then pay for the dock. So you also see in the expenses that number goes out of the account as well. In terms of our expenses, again, we haven't really had any very much in the way of social events. Everything else has been pretty much the same, but you do see the facilities maintenance number is fairly high there, and that will, like I said, be going up soon as we deal with some tree issues and a few other maintenance issues on our properties. Are there any questions about the treasurer's report?
Just a reminder, if you have any questions, you can insert them in that chat function. John, I'm not seeing any questions come in, so I think we're good.
All right.
Okay, so moving right along, we have our community property update, and Bo Conroy has been leading a lot of our property efforts. Bo?
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Scott. So yeah, we have, as always, a lot going on with the properties. Big thanks to Grant Garcia and Joe Flasher. I don't know if people have had a chance to go see them, but there's new kayak racks down at Dewey. We have 12 new racks that are lined up there. There's a photo there for those who can see everything. And this has, I'm pleased to announce, eliminated the wait list. So right now there is not a wait list for the kayak racks. Save for, I think, one person asked for a rack since the new racks went up, and I haven't been able to get them one yet because I have to see if the old wait list, if anybody from the old wait list doesn't take their rack. But so worst case is there'll be one person being added to the wait list at the end of all this, but we could have a 0 wait list with the new kayak racks. And if anyone, so with the new kayak racks right now, I'm in the process of reaching out to everyone from the wait list to make sure they're still neighbors, make sure they're still AHIA members, making sure they still want the racks, and going through the paperwork and payment process to assign their racks. This is, of course, taking longer than a day or two to kind of get in touch with everybody and do all this work. So we'll see how things shake out. We may have a few racks left open, but that's kind of where the racks are now. If you think you're on the waiting list and you haven't received any contact information from me within the past week, please reach out again to the I think there's an email address in the newsletter. So please reach out and confirm your status of being on the wait list, because as of now, everyone should have been contacted who was on the wait list. Also, with the Dewey racks, volunteers added a new base layer of mulch to improve footing down there. So we're looking pretty good. And the final thing with the Dewey racks, it's not on the slide, but we had some lighting issues. That's all been repaired. The lights are going down there to kind of keep any nighttime activity to a minimum, and also added a new lock to the light control down there, so people can't turn off the lights without breaking a master lock for now. As Scott already mentioned, on other things, the Williams dock's been replaced. The last remaining item there is the standpipe. And we're looking with the city to try to leverage whatever grants or funding we can to pay for that standpipe. In the meantime, the permit remains open until that work is finished. And also we've installed, or the boat club with our support has installed fire extinguishers and boxes down there. So there is some fire safety, but the standpipe is not there quite yet. And the standpipe wasn't a part of the old dock either. This is a new addition for fire safety with the latest code. But things are moving along there. Last with Williams Dock, we've got a couple dead trees that have been noted by neighbors. We've gotten a couple quotes, and that work should be done this month in October to take those dead trees down. This is another example of what the do support. We do this in concert with the boat club. So both the boat club and the Improvement Association kind of band together here for these kinds of facilities projects and cleanup projects. So we're both kind of handling that as two different organizations. Also not on the slide, bonus material. The signs have kind of gotten their fall cleanup, so the signs are looking good. So if you see anything, if any neighbors see anything, please let us know. Please let me know. There's the grounds email on the newsletter, and we'll try to take care of that as soon as we can, which sure do support. And I think that is it. Pending any questions, that's the latest on grounds. And if I missed if any board members, if I missed anything, please let me know and chime in. I think that's everything.
Thanks, Bill. I don't see any questions coming in on the chat. I do just want to add a couple of things about the standpipe issue. I want to be clear that the standpipe would be an issue regardless of whether or not we docked boats at that dock. And speaking with the fire marshal, even if it was just a stub pier for launching a kayak, the city of Annapolis's fire department would require a standpipe for, again, even a 6-foot pier that was only sufficient for launching kayaks. What's triggering it is because the pier is owned by the neighborhood. If it was one of the neighbors on either side was a private residence, it wouldn't be required. We do have a comment from Dave Dalbert. Thanks for the great information. Did the dock improvement result in any additional boat slips? No, at this time it was a replacement in kind, so it did not result in additional boat slips. I do understand that the waiting list has turned over a good bit for slips, but we're still at the same capacity. There is a water level issue there as well. I believe over time we've lost 1 or 2 slips to silt issues there.
And just as a clarification too, for new members and folks who just might not have heard, the Dewey Dock has the kayak racks, which are maintained by the Improvement Association, and Williams Dock and kayak racks are maintained by the Admiral Heights Boat Club, which is a separate group. So if you're interested in the Dewey side, please reach out to me. And if you're interested in the Williams side, reach out to the Boat Club. That's the two different parts. I think that's it.
All right. And so we move on to our, sorry, we've got another question coming in from Margaret Drake. What about the public lot at the intersection of Halsey and McDonough? That is not well kept these days. You cannot get to the water very easily. One neighbor reports that people moving, just give it a bit of a swipe, trimming and shaping, or I'm sorry, I guess that's people mowing, just give it a bit of a swipe. Trimming and shaping doesn't seem to happen unless she trims in order to get to her hedge.
Okay. I mean, I'll unless anybody knows more about that, I'll take that as a note for follow-up. Thank you, Margaret. This is the kind
I think
of we need to know. Go ahead,
no,
Scott.
this is great information. I also think this is the type of information we need to glean from the survey. Halsey Park has been a community property without a lot of thought behind its purpose. It is not the same as the waterfront properties that we have on Williams and Dewey, obviously. It's a little bit more open. I know there's some neighbors who have talked about being interested in a playground there. So please, if you have thoughts on how Halsey could be improved, make sure you leverage the survey that Joe Flasher is going to talk about now.
Can I
Joe?
say about that?
Oh, yeah.
Just about Halsey Park real quick. I know 5 years ago or so, maybe even more than that now, we did have the lawn crew clear out a path down there. And I think we even put in a few like timbers to try and make a little walkway down to the water. That was around the same time that they replaced the outflow at Halsey Park and fixed that issue. And I think it was just kind of deemed that nobody was using it at the time, the walkway, so it wasn't maintained beyond that. It basically just led to a mud flat at the bottom. And I think some people explored maybe even trying to build some sort of a dock or a kayak launch there, and it was deemed not really terribly usable at the time.
So,
All right, Joe, can you chat with us about the community input survey?
just one quick thing before you go, Joe. Margaret, can you please put your email me if you don't want to put it in the chat, just your contact information, or I can get it from John actually, and I'll just reach out to kind of take a look at that with you when we're both available. And also there is another issue, the outfall. The Williams Dock outfall, which is maintained by the city, has also fallen back into disrepair. So this just recently happened. We've just recently reached out to the city in the past couple days to get an update on the city's plans to address it and repair that outfall. So that's also kind of on our tracking list, which I forgot to mention. But turn it over to you, Joe. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you both. Thank you, Scott. So I don't want to overly belabor this. I think Scott sort of already set it up pretty nicely in the welcome. We just wanted a scalable way to reach a lot of you at once and sort of hear what you're concerned about, get input on the projects and sort of concerns that we were hearing, and sort of do that all at once. And so we put together the survey. I mean, I've only been here for a few years, but I think this is the first time within the last few years, at least, that we've done this. My sense is that if we get, if it's useful for folks, then I think we would probably look to do this on a regular basis, just to make sure that we're always aligned with what the community is looking to have us do. You can get to the link right there. It's pretty easy. There's just a few simple questions. This should take no longer than a few minutes. We just ask, like, what are your primary concerns? We give a few projects that we've been looking at, or at least that are on our radar, and try to get a sense of how important they are for you. We also ask for things that we should start doing, stop doing, or continue doing, right? Just to get a sense of what you think is working and what's not working. And then there's a free comment form. So the things like Halsey Park, right? Like that's not one of the things that are specifically called out. And so if that's an issue for you, please raise it there so it gets on our radar. And then it's sort of coming to all of us at once, because we'll be able to see the results, and it comes to all of us at once instead of sort of having to play telephone to go through one of us. So yeah, I mean, unless there's anything else, I think I'll stop there. The deadline's October 20th. We'll sort of collect the results, and then I think we will probably want to figure out a way to share them as well, just to be as transparent as possible, so you all see what we're seeing, right? That's not private information. So yeah, unless there's anything else, I'll stop there. Like I said, it's should be easy and quick to fill out. If there's questions that we don't ask that you do want us to ask, please just include that in the comments and we can get it included in future versions of the survey. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. I'm not seeing any questions come in about the survey, so we'll just move on. But if you do have a question, just send it in that chat function and I'll keep monitoring. And here's where we get to our budget. Just like last time, we worked out some scenarios for you. John, can you help us with this budget conversation?
Surely. So if you all recall, at our March meeting this year, we laid out, I think we used 3 cases then, depending on how the dues shook out. And we left it, so the membership voted that the board would be able to decide which case we fell into based on our revenue. So basically, we're going to do the same thing this year. And of course, had we not had a pandemic, we would have had more of the social events and everything like that because the income was in one of the better case scenarios that we had laid out at that meeting. So we're going to lay out a couple of cases for you here and kind of do the same thing. So you can see our base case. This assumes 33% join. That's around 200 members-ish, which is historically kind of where we fell, around 200, maybe a little less. That assumes about $8,000 in income from dues, plus the kayak racks, which we now have a few more kayak racks, so that income goes up. We get a little bit of advertising income. And then, of course, we have the small boat club lease that we negotiated, plus the boat club's contribution to the future dock fund, which we have to match. Right, so that money just gets put away. It's not actual income. It just gets saved. And then you can see the better case scenario there where we have 50%, which is getting a little closer to where we are now. But still, we aren't quite there. You can see how the income numbers would shake out there. Everything goes up just a little bit. Oops, sorry. So basically, we're like Scott said before, we're going to propose that our dues stay the same. They stay at $40. Our kayak stays the same at $45. So can you go on to the next one? Yep. So like I said, we're going to do exactly the same thing we did last time. If we have low membership, we'll cut things. If we have high membership dues, we will increase the events. And most of this increased spending is to respond to your neighborhood interests. Anything you put in the survey, for example, of extra improvements you'd like to see on properties, more social events, that sort of thing. If we have extra money, we will put it into those initiatives. If we have low membership, like we have some years in the past, we'll have to rein in some of that extra money and focus more on the essentials, like maintaining all of our properties, lawn mowing, cutting down trees, all that sort of stuff that we have to do. And there's a really important note on this slide. If we don't fund an event, that doesn't mean we have to cancel it outright. It just means we might ask for more volunteers to help or to make donations, to bring food, all that sort of stuff. So we can still have the event, but it just cannot be supported by the neighborhood. Okay. So if you go ahead, yeah, there we go. So this is our base case, what the expenditures might look like. Again, you can see the income at the top. Or sorry, no, the income's not on this slide. Sorry about that. But you can see what our maintenance is. That first thing, those are the things we have to do. Is 83% of our budget takes care of the power, the mowing, our contribution to the dock replacement fund, so we don't end up in another situation like we've had in the past. Our facilities maintenance, about $1,000, and our insurance bill. These are the things that we can't really do anything about, right? They just maintain our properties. We do have some administrative things like the internet and the web page that cost money. Our membership, in case anybody's wondering, that is the Severn River Society. That's what that goes to. Our membership mailings, which have so far been neutral. They usually get us as much income as we spend on them. And then we have a PO box, office supplies, and the newsletter printing as well. So all of that's about 14%. So that leaves only 3% of the budget for any sort of social gatherings or other initiatives. Again, this is the base case. So about 33%, a third of the neighborhood joining. Okay, the better case scenario. So again, we're assuming now about half the neighborhood joins the association. You can see all of that facilities maintenance stuff stays the same, but now it's only about 61% of the budget. It's a smaller piece of the pie. So those first 2 columns are still exactly the same as they were before. but now we have about an extra $4,000 we could spend on whatever the community wants, whether that be more social gatherings of some sort, more family events, doing some work at Halsey Park, or anything that the neighborhood decides we should do. Okay, so all that being said, here's the official motion for our budget, and I'll go ahead and read that out. Be it hereby resolved that the Board of Directors is authorized to proceed with the base case budget. And be it further resolved that the board be authorized to increase spending as outlined in either the better case budget, if revenue is strong enough to support doing so.
Thanks, John. We do have a question coming in from Natalina Bartlett. The newsletter printing is $600. Is that for everyone to get a copy of the math?
Yeah, twice a year, everybody gets a copy. So it's $300 a pop, and we publish it in March and October, or late September, October.
I will also just point out that there is a question about newsletter preferences in the survey.
So a lot of information here. I'll just pause to see if there are any other questions that are going to come in from the comments. Not seeing any questions coming in. As I mentioned at the top of the meeting, what we're going to do is vote by seeking unanimous consent. If you do object to the budget motion as outlined by the treasurer, please just insert in the chat function that you object with your name and address, or your name and street name. You don't need to give us your exact address so we can verify you against the member rolls. So I'll call for unanimous consent, and we'll just pause for 90 seconds to see if anyone objects. We have a question coming in from the YouTube channel. New owner here. Are the dues definitely moving to be paid via property taxes or other venue? So we have talked about creating a special community benefits district, which would allow the dues to be paid as part of your property taxes. That conversation is on hold currently because we're waiting for a time where we can all get together and have a better town hall meeting and more interactive public dialogue about that. Definitely some pros to doing it that way. It's easier for administration, but I understand there are some concerns that we need to address when we discuss that as well. The county code sets out the process for which we'd adopt that, and it's through a petition of the neighborhood. So not something that's easy to do in a time of social distancing. We have, however, discussed setting up through PayPal an easier subscription for paying the dues that just kind of automates it. It makes it like any bill that you can kind of set on auto pay. So that might be an interim step before we can consider a property tax setup if that makes it easier for folks. We're very lucky. Again, this was a great year for membership, all-time high. Still would like to grow it some more, but I don't see any objections coming in, so we will consider the budget passed by unanimous consent. And with that, we're going to turn to updates from City Hall. I know there are a couple of topics that have been a buzz throughout the neighborhood. A lot of people wondering where we are with the Cedar Park Road, which we have in the budget this year. And we had a very successful town hall with the police chief and the mayor a little while back to talk about crime. And I'm sure people want updates there, but this is our time to hear from our city councilman. And Fred, you're with us. If you want to unmute and just talk about what's going on at City Hall, that'd be great.
Thank you for the reminder. Good evening, everybody. I'm glad that we have a decent number of people here tonight. Voting on the budget is very important to our community, whether you realize that or not. There are a number of things that are going on at City Hall that affect our neighborhood. The first, and I think the most important thing, is the crime issue. I think that, by and large, we've been fairly lucky here. But the long arm of violence, if you will, did reach into our community, regrettably. back in June, late June, when a random, well, it was actually a targeted shooting took place on Cedar Park, right near the intersection of Porter, right near where Porter, Sampson, Cedar Park come together. It was gang related, and I'm happy to say it really didn't have anything to do with Admiral Heights. If these people had seen each other on West Street, it would have happened there. That's not to excuse or minimize the violence. It's frightening. It's really frightening. I'm a career prosecutor, and while I may realize that the average person is not in particular danger here in our community, nevertheless, it's a real eye opener, and we all have to be vigilant and careful of what we do. The second thing we need to talk about, and by the way, we did have what I thought was a rather successful town hall meeting with the chief of police, myself, Bob Waldman, and Scott. Scott and I set it up. It was a lot of hard issues were discussed, and I thought the police chief did a pretty good job in answering the questions as best he could. We have stepped up patrols a little bit. I don't really know. I mean, I'm not sure how much good that really does when it comes to a targeted shooting like the one we had, but nevertheless, I can tell you as somebody that lives here, it's a little bit of, I don't know, I take a little bit of solace from that fact. The police know we're here. They know that they have to keep their eyes out here also, along with the rest of the city, even though we're relatively speaking, a very low crime area. I guess if you're a victim of a crime, you don't really see that we're a low crime area. Believe me, as a career prosecutor, retired career prosecutor, I can tell you that we are a low crime area. It's one of the reasons why many of us live here. The second issue is these sidewalks along Cedar Park. I can tell you that we are applying for a grant from I think it's from the State Board of Education, but I'm not sure. It is from the state. I think we have an excellent chance of getting it to help the city pay for the sidewalks. If we do get it, I think that will happen. The sidewalks will happen much more quickly than they would if we don't get it. But I think one way or the other, the sidewalks are going to come. Finally, thank God. I think your president is to be congratulated for his efforts. Actually, it's been a community effort along with myself. I've been trying to get those suckers for 10 years, and I've been, the city's absolutely turned a blind eye to what I think is a very dangerous situation. It's funny that now that the director of public works, the same guy that's been telling me no, no, no for all these years, now that he's a city manager, he seems to have had a change of heart. So hopefully these things will be coming sooner, not later. And the sooner the better, I think we can all agree on for that. We are having a retreat. The council's having a retreat this weekend. We're not retreating very far. It's going to be at City Hall. It's not, I don't know if we could close it officially to the public or not. Well, I think we can, because the building is closed to the public due to the pandemic issues and rules that have been made by people other than us. However, we are going to be discussing the budget process. We are approximately $3 million over our budget. I expect that figure to get much worse. I hope it doesn't, but I think it will. As many of you know, I'm probably the cheapest guy on the council consistently. And, you know, I tried to get a budget cut. I tried to get a tax rate cut, even though it was only a penny or two I was looking for. But Unfortunately, many of my colleagues wouldn't hear of it, and that's part of the democratic process. I tried, didn't win, and we do the best we can with what we have. I think that I don't know if we're looking. It's too early to say if we're looking at a raise in the property tax for next year. We just raised it, this year, July 1. So a lot of things can happen between now and then. But we are going to try to look at the budget in a much more thorough and objective and nonpartisan way, do everything that we can to keep it down. One of the things that's come up is, and I wouldn't mind getting people's opinion about this, is perhaps have the county take over some of the services that we duplicate. I'm not necessarily talking police, fire, public works, the big ones, but there are some smaller ones that I think maybe it may pay to seriously look at that. The county can do it and split the cost up 600,000 ways, whereas we split the cost 40,000 ways. I think we would save money in a number of ways. We do lose something when we do that. We've saved an awful lot of money over the last 6 or 7 years with trash collection. What we gave up is a personal touch. And frankly, I don't think the service is as good as it used to be. Question is it good enough? And most of the time, the answer is yes. Not maybe as good as many people would like it, but we're paying a lot less money for it. Whether that's good or bad, I don't really know. Everybody has their own opinion. I haven't really suffered, but there are other people that have with the trash collection. But by and large, I think it's gone from being really good to it's okay. Let's see, what else do we have? There are a number of things. There are always things going on at City Hall. There's one thing that indirectly affects us, and that is the Tucker Street boat ramp. There is part of the budget is to to update the Tucker Street boat ramp over in West Annapolis. It's open to everybody that lives in the city. If anybody uses it a lot and has any particular thoughts or ideas, I wouldn't mind hearing from you. On a personal note, I have started to put out a newsletter. I try to get it out before every meeting, discussing what the issues are, how I intend to vote if, where applicable. And it's always pending opinions I get from my constituents. If you would like to get on my listserv, then by all means contact me at aldpaone, ALDPAONE at annapolis.gov, and we will add you to the list. I haven't received a ton of comment. The first one I did was very brief, almost an abbreviated one. The second one was a little more detailed. There just weren't a lot of issues at our second meeting. That's going to change, and that's going to change a lot. One thing that I'm introducing, it's not particularly community directed by any means, but you will hear about it, I'm sure, and that is to make the elections in the city of Annapolis nonpartisan. Some people have strong feelings about that, some don't. We along with Salisbury and Baltimore are the only 3 cities out of, I think, 35 in the state of Maryland that have parties getting involved, in the election process. Every other one is nonpartisan. Ours are partisan. I don't know what will happen with the proposed ordinance, but again, that's somewhat controversial, and I need to hear from you folks as members of the community. If there are any questions, you can always reach me at my phone, 443-223-8769, or you can text me or email me or text me at the allpayon at annapolis.gov. Any questions? I think you're muted.
You're muted.
Sorry about that. I'm going to pass along a few questions that have been coming at us through the chat functions on YouTube and through the Zoom meeting. A couple of neighbors have asked about traffic calming devices, such as speed bumps, and what the city's position is on them on roads in Admiral Heights.
Well, speed bumps aren't going to happen, I can tell you that. And that's not for anything that, it's not because of me or my feelings about it. The city simply does not put them in. They feel the potential of damage to police vehicles engaged in a chase, ambulance vehicles, heavy fire trucks. You know, we'll be replacing the speed bumps every year. And I'm afraid our department vehicles and perhaps even some of my constituents, you folks, might be replacing some of the undercarriage of your cars on a regular basis if we do that. Now, they can be done so that you won't be replacing the undercarriage of your cars. It's just the policy of the city. The traffic engineer that we have now doesn't like it. You know, it's a city's call. Not much I can do about it. Now, if you're talking about putting in, you know, a circle, a small circle here and there, that's perhaps a more realistic possibility. But as anybody that has worked on trying to get stop signs or other traffic devices in the community knows, Norm Cruz, if you're on, you know what I'm talking about. It's very difficult to do. I mean, they're by the book. We follow the national standards, and if they're not there, if we don't meet those standards, you're not going to get whatever it is you're asking for. Again, not my decision. Don't kill the messenger.
Another question that we had coming in is, why is it that the speed limit at the back of the community is 20, but up near the stadium, the front of the community, it's 25?
Well, I can't really answer that. We dropped the speed limit to 20 on Farragut Road, part of Farragut Road. And oh my God, you can't believe, number one, how many people got tickets, even though we gave 14 miles an hour over the limit before we wrote people up. There was just an incredible and overwhelming avalanche of complaints about that. I mean, there were so many tickets. It might be why your property taxes didn't go up that year. I don't know. It doesn't make much sense to me. I think, frankly, I think 25 miles an hour is okay on Farragut or Cedar Park. The problem is people don't obey the speed limit. So it could be 20. I don't know if it would alter anybody's speed or not. And going 20 miles an hour on Halsey, for example, it's not something I regularly do, but I probably should because that's what the speed limit is. It's hard to do. I mean, I'll ask, I'll inquire.
Questions come in. Once the decision has been made to begin the sidewalk project, approximately when would it commence? They're planning a sewer line replacement, and that's why they're asking.
Well, we don't know the answer to that yet. It depends on a number of factors. One is whether we get the grant from the state, and also when other projects that we're working on right now are finished. You know, we are a city, but we're a relatively small one, and it would be really unusual for a city our size to be able to do 4 or 5 projects at one time. What's going to be really important is that we get it done before they start major work on the Hillman Garage and the city dock, revamping and generally redoing. Because once that starts, I think much of our efforts are going to be devoted to that. At least that's my concern. That's why I would like to get it done sooner, not later.
All
By
right,
the way,
I'm scrolling through the questions.
the mayor himself came down and took a gander at Cedar Park, and he just shook his head. He just said, I can't believe there's no sidewalk there. So, I mean, it's not a question of getting support downtown. The support's there. It's a question of getting the money in. And also, you know, we are already $3.3 million in the hole. I don't think, well, that's an important project, but, you know, they're going to be looking at the city's money purse very, very, very closely. But we've committed to, I mean, it was approved. It's part of the budget. So.
And I think that responds to the question we just had come in. Wasn't AHA informed that the sidewalk was a done deal? It is part of the budget and part of the city's capital improvement plan, correct?
Yes, it absolutely is. It's the first time it's ever been part, you know, it's ever been part of the budget. It's ever been, you know, everybody at City Hall seems to back it. Anybody who's familiar with that part of Cedar Park at City Hall is, you know, they're just stunned that there's no sidewalk there already.
Fred, lots of comments and questions. I'm scrolling through them. We'll have a transcript at the end, so if we missed anything, I'll make sure that we get this to you, and we'll share responses with the neighborhood afterwards. But I think it's fair to say, if you look at all the comments, there's a lot of concern in the neighborhood about speed right now. I think particularly because folks are home and more families are walking through the neighborhood than ever before.
Well, is there anyone here who actually wants to put the speed camera back on Farragut? Because I sure didn't hear from that side of the issue. I think we could use a speed camera maybe on parts of Cedar Park, but you know, again, we had the city engineer go out and take speed measurements and that sort of thing, and she's telling us that people don't really go that fast. There's not much I can do when, you know, once I get the city's attention, they come out and say there's not as big a problem as you think there is. I'm only the messenger here. I can only advocate. I don't have any authority to say, hey, go do it. As a matter of fact, technically it's a criminal offense for me to tell city employees what to do.
I think we've grabbed most of the questions. I tried to sum up questions where they crossed over or were duplicative. But Fred, thank you as always for joining. We're going to scan through this, and if we did miss anything, I'll make sure to email them over to you, and we'll share the responses with the whole neighborhood.
Anybody can contact me at any time, as I said, at Aldpaone, one word, ALDPAONE at Annapolis.gov, or you can call me. I mean, I'm a neighbor. I live here. I don't mind getting the calls.
Yep. Great. I'll just wrap up the conversation about traffic and city issues with sharing a comment that came in from Travis Rieger. Just to remind everybody that motorists are supposed to stop whenever there's someone in the crosswalk. We just need to be mindful of pedestrians throughout our neighborhood. Thank you, Travis, for reminding us. I know Maggie Rogers, a member of our board and neighbor, shared a great personal commentary in the newsletter about her observations of driving through the neighborhood. Last but not least, as I said, we do have an upcoming event that we've implemented social distancing for. It is a scarecrow making event that our board member Lizzie Quello and Karen Lofty, both neighbors on Cedar Park, have organized. It's going to take place at Cedar Park Road right by that Admiral Heights sign. We'll be supplying the straw, string, and stakes, and there will be a contest where you can vote on your favorite scarecrows that are made. If you'd like to request supplies to go, if you want to participate but you're not comfortable with a socially distant community gathering, just email Lizzie at the email address that you see on the screen, and we will make sure that we get those supplies for you. Natalina asks, just again, for Alderman Payone's contact information. His email address is aldpayon. That's A as in apple, L, D as in dog, P as in Paul, A as in apple, O, N as in Nancy, E as in Edward, at, oh, Fred, is it at Annapolis.gov?
Annapolis.gov.
There we go. And Joe Flasher just typed it into the chat for us. Thank you, Joe.
Yep, thank you.
Last but not least, I will say, as a personal venture on the traffic issues, I am trying to get some public dialogue going so we can push the city along and back up Fred's efforts to get that sidewalk built. I've created a Facebook page that you can follow. It's been quiet for the past week or so, but it's Walkable Ward 2. If you follow Walkable Ward 2, we're going to have public discussion there just to try to keep it front and center for the city. But a project that I'm going to start next week, I'm going to ask for volunteers for, looking for families and school children to read Shel Silverstein's Where the Sidewalk Ends on Cedar Park, so we can post that to bring attention to the issue of lack of sidewalks in Admiral Heights. So if you and your kids are willing to read part of Shel Silverstein's poem, Where the Sidewalk Ends in Admiral Heights, we'll be taking videos and compiling that video together, so maybe we can make this discussion go viral. Thank you, everybody, for joining us this evening. I know this was different than our normal town hall meeting, but hopefully you found it just as useful and just as informative. My email address is on the website. Please feel free to reach out to me. Last but not least, I want to thank the board members, those that spoke tonight, those that were in the background tonight. Everything that happens in Admiral Heights really happens because of a lot of volunteer labor. There's a lot that goes into maintaining the community properties, maintaining our books, getting the social events to come together. And we have a dozen folks in our neighborhood that give time every month to make it happen. So thank you to all of them. You're all here. I really appreciate you. I know all of our neighbors do. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.
Thank you, Scott. Good job.